Hey guys, welcome back, and this is my first review for 2020, and boy, what a kit do I have here. So I took this one home for the break since we had a few extra days off over the holiday. I had some more time to spend building model kits, and this is probably, I've got to say, this is probably one of the biggest kits that I have ever built. And although I think that HG Neo Xeon definitely wins as far as the height goes, and that one, it's also a pretty large kit, but as far as wide kits go, this is probably one of the largest I have ever built. And this is from Max Factory. This is the VF-1 Super Strike Fighter Valkyrie. Here we can see the instruction manual here. So this kit originally was released last year, I do believe, and recently we were able to acquire a few more in stock. So if you're watching this video right as soon as it goes up, we do still have a few left in stock at the moment, but if you're watching this video later down the line, it might not be available. However, considering this kit came out last year and we were able to just get some more stock in just now, I have to say there's probably I would at least say there's probably a decent chance that Max Factory will continue to reissue this kit for those that would like to buy it at some point in the future. So if you're unable to buy it right as you're watching this video now, definitely keep on checking back on our site to see if it ever does become available again. All right, so let's see, where am I going to start here? So yeah, I took this kit home over the break, and the box for this thing, the box that this thing comes packaged in, is just absolutely enormous. So at my apartment, I went ahead and recorded an unboxing of this kit. So let's go ahead and take a look at me taking some of those giant runners out of the box here for this thing now.
And it's actually kind of the first time that I'm opening it up here too. I've cut the tape, but I haven't actually opened it up yet. And inside we get a whole lot of runners, and these are really big runners. Yeah, so all these runners come individually wrapped in different bags. Here we get some clear parts.
Let's get going back.
This bag here, we can see we got some of the landing gear pieces, 1/20th scale. So wow, these landing gear pieces are just really large. And here we have the clear glass cockpit. So that wasn't on that clear runner that we saw earlier. Alright, so I'm holding the O runner here, and I've placed the C2 runner from that Gundam Destiny kit on top here. Alright, so now we're going to get parts for the fuselage. Here's my hand in comparison to the size of this thing. Absolutely massive. Alright, so we got some smaller sized runners here. We get some yellow, black, blue. That's actually a clear blue there. And there's a red runner down here as well. This is going to be for the pilot figure there. So 1/20th scale. So this pilot figure is going to be quite big, actually. Alright, so these are going to be the 2P runners, I'm assuming, because they do look identical. We got the dark parts, some dark parts. It's really about the same number of parts as what you expect in a Gundam kit, so... The wings. Alright, so we're finally getting into the wings. So this is going to have a variable geometry swing wing like you see on an F-14 Tomcat. So with this gear here, I'm expecting that you should be able to swing these wings in and out on the kit even after it's assembled, but we shall find out. So yeah, just the wings. It's the wing runner here, also with a normal A size Gundam runner on top, just absolutely massive. Alright, one more thing I wanted to talk about before I finish this unboxing here is I went ahead and opened up that bag that contained the instruction manual there, and an interesting thing to note is that this kit includes not water slide decals, but just regular old marking stickers. So you can see that gloss there. Yeah, these are just regular old stickers. You're just going to be stickering up this big expensive kit. So I guess since it's stickers, I'll just go ahead and throw the stickers on there, not have to worry about it since they aren't decals. So I definitely won't be painting this one right away, at least. And the instruction manual is nicely fully colored, although it does have read before assembly here. There is absolutely no English in the instruction manual. So we can see all the layout of all the runner parts there, and actually there are some parts that are not going to be used, which is interesting for me. And here we can see where all those marking stickers are going to go on the kit. And here we can take a quick look. There's instructions for putting together that pilot figure. We're going to start like a normal aircraft kit where you start with the cockpit. You're definitely going to start with the cockpit on this one as well. And this instruction manual is not thick at all, so really, except for the time it's going to take to clean up those nub marks, this kit doesn't look like it's going to take that long to assemble and put together here. There we are. Total, the last step is number 53, so a total of only 53 steps and only 14 pages for this kit. So definitely, it's a big kit, but I guess it's not going to be very difficult to put together. And this little thing in here, this was some steel rods, so probably going to use these to give it some extra strength, I would assume, but we'll find out. All right,
and here it is all put together. So I did mention in that unboxing at some points that I did initially, I thought that this kit would probably, it looks like it has a lot of like peg connections on it that you should be able to snap together like a Gundam kit. So here we can see a couple of those pegs. So initially I believed that that would be the case. However, that did not really turn out to be the case. And I ended up, just like a standard model kit, you do have to use glue on this thing in order to keep it together. Now, if I could avoid using glue at some points, I actually did. Whenever possible, I avoided using glue. But however, some parts like the thrusters here, they just would not hold in without any glue being applied. And some of these parts definitely just had to be glued together in order to get it to stick. That's just how it was. However, in order to make this easier to move around from apartment to work and what have you, some of these parts I did, as I mentioned, leave unglued so that they could easily be, I could transport them easier. And the same goes for the cockpit here. So the cockpit part also, I left this one unglued, so just makes it easier to fit into a box. And even though this part is not glued in, when it's just kind of loosely put in there like that, I think it'll be no problem. So I'll probably never glue this one on there at all. So let's take a look. So you can see just the size of this thing compared to my hand. This thing is just absolutely massive. And to give you guys a better size comparison here, now I gotta say, some of these parts, you can kind of see why I ended up deciding I needed to use glue, although it does slide in there. This is really loose. It's not a very good connection. So let's have a size comparison. So here, so this is the Master Grade 3.0 RX-78 Gundam. And this is a Master Grade, so it's not the smaller type of HG kit like you would see here. So gosh, even the HG size kit, he is just about as big as, this is an Earth Tree Gundam. If you're watching this wondering what the heck Gundam this is not a normal size HG kit. This is kind of a little small, not really half size, but it's smaller than usual HG kit. And this is from the new Gundam series, Build Divers Rise. So he's almost the same size as the pilot figure sitting in the cockpit there, which is quite interesting. But yeah, even a Master Grade Gundam, this thing is just absolutely more ginormous than that. And let's bring out one more, because this guy is a bigger one. Here is the Master Grade Sazabi standing next to the Valkyrie. So definitely you can get a good size comparison. Maybe you can put this guy behind there. So just an absolutely massive kit. So if you do buy and build this kit, you will definitely need to find some place that you could keep it on your shelf once it is built, because it's going to take up a lot of shelf space. Right, so speaking about Gundam, usually when I do a review for a Gundam kit, I kind of start off talking about the articulation, like how the feet moves and whatnot. But this kit actually, I'm not really going to be able to talk much about articulation. The only point where it does articulate is going to be in the wings here. So the wings can fold out. So you're able to fold them out and in, just like an F-14 Tomcat, which the F-14 Tomcat and the F-15, those are kind of the two planes that really inspired the design for the Valkyrie, because this was originally designed for the original Macross TV series, which I do believe aired around 1983 or 82, so a few years after the Gundam series originally aired. Now, my kind of connection to the Valkyrie is that when I was a kid, so growing up in America, we did not have the original Macross series like here in Japan, but Macross and like two other Japanese animes got combined together into the series called Robotech, and this, I don't really remember because I was just a really young kid at that point, but I had one of the toys that they had imported of this VF-1 Valkyrie. It was one of my absolute favorite toys growing up, and that kit, I remember it was like a transformer. It could transform into the Batroid mode. And the Gearwalk, I don't remember if it did Gearwalk mode. I remember transforming it into the Batroid mode, and of course the fighter mode. And at some point I had broken off the tail piece here. I do remember having broken off that piece. So I absolutely loved that plane. I loved that toy growing up, and I'm kind of sad. I have no idea what ended up happening to it. So now that I'm here in Japan, whenever I see like a VF-1 Valkyrie, I kind of like have to buy it. Bandai recently came out with a really, really cool version of the VF-1 as well. I believe that was 1/48 scale. That was not a model kit that you put together, but one of their pre-assembled toys. And then also Bandai in 2013 had another version of the VF-1 Valkyrie that could transform from the plane to the Gearwalk and also the Batroid mode without needing to change any parts. So that was a cool kit. I did buy that one. It's a bit of a finicky kit. Unfortunately, I don't believe it's available now, and I think it's been quite some time since Bandai has done a reissue of that kit. So hopefully at some point Bandai will do a reissue of that kit. But yeah, lots of different Valkyries to be available to be bought here in Japan. So I mentioned the wings. You are able to get some articulation on the wings. So the landing gear is going to be fixed in place. However, this kit does come with the option of, I have the landing gear deployed because it just makes it absolutely easier to keep it on the shelf. However, if you really want to go crazy and have it in flight mode, this kit does include closed doors there for flaps for the landing gear. So you don't have to include the landing gear. You can install these in the place and have the landing gear up. There's also one for the front landing gear there. So you do have that option if you would really like to have it in flight mode. Now, also speaking of different options, it gives you 3 different options for the heads as well. So you have this version of the head, which has the 2, I believe they're cannons on the side of the head here, as well as this form here with that single cannon. Now, I went with the one that I remembered was on my toy figure growing up. Let me see if I can rotate this around so you can kind of look at the underneath of this thing here, and you can see where the head goes. So I went with the quad cannon head here. Now, I did have to glue this one in place. I won't be able to swap it out to those other head cannons because I found that it just, without gluing this in place, the connection just wasn't really strong enough to hold it in there, and it just kept flopping off on me. So that's okay. I probably have no desire to ever change that thing out anyway, but there you have it. That's where the head is going to be underneath. Of course, lots of you out there watching probably are die-hard Macross fans already, and you probably know quite a lot more about this thing than I do. We can see get a better look at the underneath of this kit. And my cockpit is kind of starting to slide out there. So I did not go ahead and panel wash this thing or do anything fancy because I did not have that much time. Whoops, you can see here. I guess I thought I had glued that part on, but maybe I hadn't. Can I pop this up? Oh, I guess we can. All right, so let's take a look at that. I forgot that I had not glued this part on, so this was just being held in place by gravity. So this version of the kit is the the strike fighter. So it does have the fast pack, which is the giant thrusters here, as well as the massive cannon. Now, Max Factory, they are releasing a version of this without the fast pack, just the regular standard fighter mode version, which is also a little bit less expensive than this version with the fast pack. And that one is due to be out in March. However, as of this time, we're not accepting any further new orders for that kit. However, in March, after the kit has been released, you never know, it might become possible. You never know, so definitely do check back in stock at a later point. So yeah, you can kind of get a good look at it, what it might look like in that regular fighter mode without the fastback. Now, one thing that I was kind of hoping it would have, however, this kit did not have, was the ability to, because this is like the super expensive version that has the fastpack, I figure like a Bandai kit usually comes with like extra parts, so you might be able to build the other standard fighter version. However, that is not the case, because the tail that comes with this one, you only get this one tail, and that is the folded flat tail. So you will not be able to cut this one apart. You would really need to do some kind of scratch building if you really wanted to make a standard fighter version of this kit. Although if you are spending this much money for this version, I don't think that you're probably that desperate to make a standard non-fastpack version of this kit. So, or just go ahead and order the standard version as well. So yeah, only this version. Now it's cool, it does have the stickers for the tail marking here. However, once this is equipped on the back, you are not going to see these stickers at all, just because they are blocked. Now I could have sworn that I had actually glued this one on originally, but then again, I guess because it does sit on here quite nicely, just snapped into place a bit, so it doesn't really need to be glued, I guess. All right, so let's also take a look at the cockpit here, and I'm going to go ahead and pop this off so we can get a closer look at this. So it does have these nice clear parts. One thing I did appreciate, if you are an aircraft modeler, usually on aircraft models, there's kind of like a seam line that will run through the center of a canopy, and that's something that you'll have to like sand off and buff and repolish the plastic. But this kit does not have a seam line through the center of the canopy, so I did not have to worry about that. Now, the canopy, the frame, I used some regular old clear glue to glue the clear parts into the frame, but the plastic part for this frame is actually just snapped into place. So I should be able to crack this open at some point if I do want to go back and try to paint it or switch out the stickers for decals. So this kit, as you saw in that unboxing, does come with just the stickers, not the water slide decals, and it does have stickers there for the inside of the canopy. It looks all right. It looks pretty decent, even with those stickers in place, I gotta say. And the figure, for the most part, I think it was kind of I just snapped him together. Although I did have to glue the arms into place. I think the arms just kind of flopped around without that. So it looks pretty decent, I have to say, on the inside of that canopy there, without any paint, without any weathering or nothing at all. Now here, for these kind of vents around the craft here and over here as well, there's a few of these around. Now you'll have to glue these, the white parts over the top of it, and you have this plain indent on the inside, and that is not colored. So, because I didn't want to use any paints at all for when I was building this kit, what I simply did was just use a Gundam marker. I just used a regular old Gundam marker to color the inside of that before I glued this white piece in place, and I gotta say, it's not bad. Probably would be better to paint it with a little bit of the Gundam marker. If I really wanted to, I could strip that off at some point in the future and repaint it, but who knows, I probably won't have enough time to do that. Also, the clear parts here, this kit does have clear parts, and you can see here on the wing, this is one of the clear parts. This one is not painted at all. The kit doesn't come with any pre-colored clear parts. It only comes with standard clear parts, so you will have to use a clear color to color the underneath of these. So also because I didn't want to use, I don't want to bust out any paints. I don't want to use any paints at all for this kit. So what I simply did was just take a red highlighter, and then I just used the highlighter to color the underneath of that clear part before I put it in place. And even just coloring the underneath of the clear part with the plastic, or coloring the underneath with the red highlighter, and then I just used some white glue to glue that in place. That actually looks pretty decent, I have to say. Probably would be better with the actual clear paint, but what have you. Now for the wingtips as well, same thing here. This was a standard clear part. However, I just used a highlighter on the underside. Now let's see if we can get it from the side. You can kind of see there it turns to clear because the red is only on the underneath of the clear part itself. So it gives it a nice kind of a look that has a bit more depth to it. I'm not a really big fan of using a clear paint over the outside of a clear part. I kind of prefer to have the color be underneath the clear part so that it kind of gives it that more depth, because if you do clear on the outside, it kind of just loses a little bit of that depth here. So this one as well, although this side actually was a blue. So I used a blue highlighter to give it that blue look underneath that side there. So blue on one side and red on the other here. All right, so for this kit, it has the gun. So you have the massive, absolutely massive cannon, and I'm just resting these pieces in place here. Also, this one had another clear piece here that I just used a clear highlighter underneath to give it that look. Now, that circle there, that's actually one of the pegs from the molding there, but I thought it kind of looked cool. I thought it kind of looked cool. It's not wanting to focus on there without that part colored in, so I just left that uncolored there. So there you have it. Now you do have the option, if you don't want to have that cannon installed, you do have the ability to, it does come with parts. Let me see if I can get this one in here. If you would like to install it without the cannon, there we go. You can just have both of these in here without the cannon. So if you want to have it with this look, you can do it this look without the cannon. The option is yours. Just one of the few options that come included with this kit. All right, what else am I forgetting to talk about with this guy? Now, although this kit, I did end up having to use glue, I also want to mention that, as you can see here, nothing, except for parts where I used marker or a highlighter, nothing on this kit is painted. So it does come, like a Gundam kit, it does come with, a number of parts molded in color, which is quite nice. So you get this black part here. This is molded in black, so you get a number of parts molded in black, molded in gray, molded in white, of course, and this kind of dark greenish color for the fast pack parts, as well as the figure. The figure came molded in different colors. We got yellow, reds, and black, so that is quite cool. Now, I do wish, because this kit is quite expensive, I do wish that it did include water slide decals instead of the stickers. So let's take a look at the stickers that I have used. It came with a total of 4 different sticker sheets here. So we have, let's start with A1. So you can see what is left over. A couple of different options if you want to use any of these other options here. So there's A1. There was my A2. Now if I didn't use the sticker, it probably wasn't called out in the manual, or it has the option. So this one is 001, but it also has the option for the 011 if you want to go with that number instead. And then there's also one here for B, the sticker B sheet. It's a bit smaller. The other size, these are all A4 size, the other sticker sheets. Now B is a bit smaller. What would you say, B5, I think you call that, half size A4 there. And it also has an extra couple of the skull and crossbones there. So I ended up using that. Now, the stickers, actually these stickers here, I thought they were pretty decent. Now sometimes I'll have trouble with tearing stickers on Gundam kits and whatnot, but these stickers, as you can probably tell by that reflection here, they're a kind of a plastic based sticker, so they were quite strong. So which was really nice when I have to deal with getting a sticker onto like the wing here, because you'll need to have this in like a nice proper line. In order to line it up correctly, I was able to, if half of it got stuck down, I realized it was going off in the wrong direction. I was able just to rip it up, pull it up gently, not like very violently or anything, but pull up the sticker and able to relay it down, and it still had quite a bit of stick in it. I did not tear any of the stickers at all on this kit, so that was quite nice. Now for the decals, I do want to mention, however, they are currently marked as discontinued on our site, but Max Factory did separately sell a set of water slide decals for this kit. Now this is the DX version. There was a non-DX version as well, which I didn't have a chance to grab. So this DX version comes with a bunch of different colors if you want to do a different colored version of it, and you've got a whole bunch of different numbers for this. Now, I'm not going to open this one up. Here we can see the backside of this sticker set here. It kind of gives you some instructions on where you want to put them on. It tells you, it gives you the names for which person should be piloting which number. Now there should be 2 sheets on the inside of this thing. So the decals is not only this one, I believe it should have the whole, like all of these stickers from this set, it should have all these in decal form on the second sheet underneath of here. So also speaking of separately sold options, which are currently discontinued, but hopefully will become available again at some point in the future, there was another set that was available originally, and that was the VF-1 Valkyrie armament set. Yep, the Macross. Do you remember love? So the armament set, and this one would be usable for the Gearwalk version. So the Gearwalk version of this kit was the original one that was released, and then this fighter version was the second version that came out. Now we got the new fighter version without the weapons. So, oh, and here it's also mentioning the decals. You can kind of see this is going to be the non-deluxe version, what's going to be included on that one. So they still mention it here on this side. So we'll turn it around. You can see the optional weapons that you can get with this set. Unfortunately, this set is discontinued at this time. I do hope that this thing becomes available again at some point in the future. I hope Max Factory kind of keeps making these things. It was a bit of compared to a Gundam kit, it's a bit more of a challenge because you do need to use glue. So if you are not a fan of using glue on your kits, then maybe this kit won't be for you. However, if you just want to kind of put together a kit without having to worry about painting it, because the parts come molded in color, this kit definitely, that is an option. For glue, for the most part, I just used Tamiya Extra Thin. That's probably my favorite glue, or the other kind of extra thin glues out there. I just love being able just to put the parts together first, and then just using the brush to go over the seam line and having it glue after you put the parts together. It also helps you like doing the test fitting and what have you. So if you have the option, take a look at your local hobby shop. You might be able to find some Tamiya Extra Thin. However, due to the size of this kit, you might want to consider using a stronger glue, like regular Tamiya Cement or GSI Krios version Mr. Cement, I believe they called it. So that might be an option as well, although it does take a little bit longer to dry. Now you can see here, I did also want to mention, I did not really go through and try to clean up the nub marks very well, so you can still kind of see the nub marks. Now this kit, as you saw in that unboxing there, just the runners and the gates, the gate marks or the gate parts that connect the parts to the runner, just absolutely massive, probably the most massive gate connections that I've ever seen on a model kit. So I might have actually spent more time just trying to clean up the runner marks and cutting the parts off the runners than actually putting the kit together, just because those runner parts were just so absolutely thick. So definitely that is another thing to keep under consideration if you would like to build and buy this kit, is you might need to invest in a hobby saw, although hobby saw is going to take quite some time and I didn't want to take that much time. Thankfully, I am lucky enough to have an ultrasonic cutter, which is an absolutely fun toy to have if you're into plastic modeling, because like a hot knife, it just cuts through the plastic parts like butter. But unlike a hot knife, it doesn't leave as huge of a mess as a hot knife, and it's less dangerous because it's not sitting there hot all the time, so you're not going to start a fire with it. So, but an ultrasonic cutter, that's going to set you back like around I think I spent about Sun 1, which is about $300 just for that ultrasonic cutter. And the kit itself, I believe the retail price is also around Sun 1. Hey, so definitely not a cheap kit. But if you are into Macross, or if you're like me, if you grew up in America in the 1980s, you probably definitely remember this Valkyrie. You probably also had that toy and played with it, so it's a really cool fighter. Or if you're a fan of Top Gun, definitely the F-14 look for this kit is something that is really, really cool. Alright, so there are a few things that I think maybe I did not really show off as well on this kit that I probably should before I end this review here. So we didn't really get a good look at the back of this thing. You can really see these massive thrusters here. There's the largest thrusters that I've ever seen. Now the thrusters here at the legs, these unfortunately are going to need to be glued into place. They're going to be stuck into place. So you won't be able to open these at some point and have posed in that position. You'd have to cut some of the plastic, I believe, if you wanted to try and pose them open, but it doesn't really have a good joint for keeping these parts in the open position, I feel, so you will have to kind of maybe jerry-rig it a bit. So I just went ahead and just glued them in place because for me that was good enough. You can see the other thrusters on the back there. There we can get a look. Maybe we can see the inside there. You can see part of the reflection. It does have the jet engine you can see there, as well as the cannon on the underneath here. Now this cannon only has one connection between the two pods here on the bottom, so it's not a very sturdy connection, although it is glued in place, but it does have a bit of a wobble to it. We got more thrusters here on this side pack there, so hopefully I have shown off just about everything there is to show with this massive kit. So really awesome looking kit. Once I get this thing home, it's going to sit on the top of my shelf just because of how massive it is, and definitely this is going to be something that's going to liven up my room for many years to come. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope I was able to cover this massive kit in a satisfactory way here. Now, unfortunately, as I did mention earlier, if you're watching this at a later date, it might not be available. However, I do hope that Max Factory will continue to reissue this kit at different points in the future, just like they are doing the regular fighter version without the fast pack. So hopefully they'll continue to make these kits so you can buy them later if you would like. So that's going to be it for me and the review of the massive 1/20th scale VF-1 Valkyrie from Max Factory. It's part of their PLAMAX line. All right.